Alright folks, it's Friday, the week is over, the weekend's here, and it's time to get newsed. Take it away, me. Thanks, me. An Instagram star accidentally live-streamed herself having sex to 14,000 people, whoops. Jake Paul is being sued for the dumbest reason of all time, plus we have a bumper edition of Dan Howell Watch, because there's been some big Dan Howell news this week. All this, plus I'll show you how to get rich quick using only intelligence, ingenuity, and $10 million cash on this week's edition of YouTuber News, the video news service from WeTheUnicorns.com, the only website that doesn't know what Desposito is. I think it's possibly some kind of hat? Our first story, an Instagram star accidentally live-streamed herself having sex with her boyfriend to 14,000 people. But hey, who hasn't been there? Well, me, actually. I've actually never used Instagram. Kristen Hancher accidentally activated an Instagram live while she was getting down with a guy who does not make her frown, and because she has millions of followers, over 14,000 people tuned in. Now luckily there was no video because the phone was on the bed, it was out of the way, but there was audio, so people got a bit of an earful. But Kristen handled it well, posting an Instagram where she said, hey, sometimes this stuff happens, you just gotta deal with it. It's pretty good advice. It reminds me of the time that I accidentally live-streamed myself being beaten up by that child. You know, stuff happens sometimes, and really it was my fault for buying drugs from a child. Really strong child. Our second story, Jake Paul, twice the first names of a normal person, half the class, is being sued for the dumbest reason of all time. Harry, stay with me here. Jake got in a truck that had a very loud horn, and then drove around LA honking the horn at people because he wanted to spook them with the horn, because he thought that was very funny, and then he made a video about it, and then he put it online. You know, back in my day, kids just played tiddlywinks in the streets. But it was World War II, I suppose, so we didn't have much. Jake is now being sued by one of those innocent bystanders who says he received hearing damage when Jake honked the very loud horn next to his head. I can't believe this is real. The man is suing Jake and his company for the injury and for emotional distress. But of course, with this being 2017, the year where nothing makes sense, Jake will probably win the case and also will probably get a medal somehow. And maybe some cash. Nothing makes sense anymore. This reminds me of a prank I did one time. A friend of mine had just launched this ship and he was like going on and on about this ship, and it was his favorite ship. And I was like so annoyed about him talking about his ship all the time. He kept saying it was unsinkable. It's like, what a weird thing to say. So I did a sort of Jake Paul style prank where I went to, basically I got an iceberg and, oh, you've heard this story? Yeah. No, yeah, people died, but it's just a prank, bro. Hey, it's just a prank. For our third story, it's time for a very special, much more serious edition of Dan Howell Watch. Cue the music. Welcome to Dan Howell Watch, I'm Benedict Townsend. What's Dan been up to this week? Well, Dan has opened up about his history with depression. That's right, I wasn't kidding when I said this was serious. Dan posted a very personal video called Daniel and Depression, in which he documents his personal struggles with depression and talks about medication he's been on, rough days he's had, what kind of symptoms he's experienced. It's a very personal video, it's a very raw video, but we think it's incredibly brave of him to open up so much to his audience. Dan says he's determined not to be defined by his depression. He says he is who he is in spite of it, and he offers some very helpful advice for people who may be suffering from, you know, a depressive period of time, or even clinical depression itself. It's really wonderful to see a creator use their platform in such a productive way to get such useful information across. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's no driving around honking at people until they get hearing damage. You know, that's the top tier, that's the gold tier of content. But it's pretty good. Keep working, Dan. One day you'll be making videos as good as that. No, but in all seriousness, we applaud Dan for having the bravery to talk about this, and we just think it's awesome that he's done it. This has been, as always, Dan Howell Watch. Sweet ram's blood. Those are our three main stories for the day, but don't forget there's always a ton of news stories over on WeTheUnicorns.com. That's the website I work for. It's pretty good, mate. So if you want to see even more news, some would argue less important news, head over to that site, give it a little bit of the old clickety-click, or if you're on mobile, a little bit of the old tappity-tap. Or if you're somehow on a Nintendo 64 browsing the internet, I guess like a joystick, your way over to an article and hit the A button to open it. time to wrap things up. But before we go, a quick reminder that today's episode was brought to you by the most important person in the universe. The person who matters more than anyone. A person I think you know pretty well. I think you know who that person is, don't you? It's Christopher Walken. He's got that crazy voice, and there's that video where he does that dance. Whoa, hey there! Oh, Christopher Walken! Whoa, hey! Best, he's the best. Well, that incredibly ominous sound tells me it's time for the question of the week! Last week I asked you a question of the week, don't you know? And a bunch of you answered it, and I want to thank you for that. Members of the YouTuber News Global Conglomerate, you guys are the best. Mamma mia, you're the best. I hope that isn't offensive. Okay, but what was the answer to last week's question of the week? Well, one person got it right, and that person was Emma Craig. She said the answer, plain and simple, it's bees. That was the correct answer. There was a little bit of algebra involved in that question, but the answer was, of course, bees. Well, now that question's out of the way, it's time for this week's question of the week, and of course the correct answer will be read out next week, so get your calculators ready. The question of the week is this. How many is... So get your answers in for that one next week, and I'll read out the correct answer, don't you know? I'm Benedict Townsend. Where's it? Well, that's our show. I'm Benedict Townsend. Thanks for watching. And don't forget, the best way to get YouTuber news is to hit subscribe, and you'll get new episodes delivered to you every Friday. Friday belongs to YouTuber News. And of course, it belongs to the YouTuber News Global Conglomerate. That's you guys. Hashtag YNGC. If you're down to clown, down in Newstown. Wink. I'll see you next week, guys. Have a great weekend, and don't become weakened. Don't become weakened by your enemies. Strike first. Strike first to strike fear into their hearts. Feast upon that fear, and you will only grow stronger. See you then.